Welcome to the Performance Collective, where I bring together experts across the running, fitness, and human performance space to share insights, experiences, and practical strategies for improving performance. Hosted by me, Hannah Witt, a USCA certified running coach and athlete success and operations manager, this podcast features conversations with elite athletes, coaches, nutritionists, chiropractors, race directors, and industry leaders. Whether you're chasing a personal best, returning from injury, or looking to better understand the science behind training and recovery, the Performance Collective offers actionable insights to help you train smarter and perform at your best. Jon Shield is one of the world's most accomplished ultra-endurance athletes, racing and winning in some of the most extreme environments on the planet. From jungles and deserts to ice and high mountains, he's not just competed at the highest level, he's made history as the first athlete to win every race in the Beyond the Ultimate Global Race Series. And his results don't stop there. With podium finishes at brutal multi-day events like the Cape Wrath Ultra, top finishes at races like the Dragon's Back, and victories across multiple spine events, Jon has built a reputation for performing where most people break. In this episode, we catch him just weeks out from taking on the 268-mile Montane Spine Race, chasing redemption and a sub-70-hour record after a year that's tested every part of him. We go deep into what it really takes to prepare for something like this, from managing injuries and rebuilding after setbacks to the mindset required to keep showing up in the harshest conditions on Earth. This is a conversation about resilience, pressure, and what it actually means to push beyond your limits. Today, we're very fortunate to have Jon Shield on the show, and just a little bit more about him. He is an ultra endurance athlete who races in some of the harshest environments on Earth, from deserts and mountains to jungles and the Arctic. After a career-ending parachute accident in the parachute regiment, he was forced to rebuild from scratch and chose to test the limits of human endurance. Now competing in extreme races around the world, Jon has turned adversity into a powerful edge. Today, he shares hard-earned lessons on resilience, discipline, and performing under pressure, helping leaders and teams push beyond limits and thrive in the toughest conditions. Thank you so much, Jon, for being on the show today. How are you?
Cheers, Hannah. Thanks very much for having me. Yeah, I'm great. I'm just in the process of trying to build up for a race myself now, which is just about 8 weeks off. So starting to put a little bit more heavy training in around the coaching, the headwear brand that I've started. And yeah, it's been an interesting time. I've just had a couple of people sort of finish Marathon des Sables and the Arizona Monster 300. So yeah, it's been busy time with the coaching side of things, but now I'm just I've been getting over some niggles and some injuries that I've been carrying for too long because of just racing and non-stop schedule. So I've been trying to just address those, doing the rehab, and yeah, getting ready to go again in sort of 8 weeks time now.
What race is in 8 weeks time for you?
It's the Montane Spine Race. So I'm doing the longest version of it, which is 268 miles along what we've got. It's like a national trail, the Pennine Way. They do a summer version and a winter version, and they do different distances. So they do the southern section, which is, they do a short version they call the sprint, which is about 47 miles. They do a 108-mile version, and that's on the southern part of the route. Then they do Challenger North, which is the north part of 100 and, I'm going to say this wrong, probably 160 miles. And then they do the North Sprint now, which was the newest race, which is about 43 miles on the final bit of the route. And then they do the whole version, which is the 268-mile version. And it's non-stop. It's you can go and basically just try and do it as quickly as you can. You've got to you're not allowed outside assistance other than the checkpoints, and there's only a few checkpoints throughout the whole route, so for long periods of time you can be on your own, not seeing anyone. It's very exposed, so the weather can be really, really poor, especially in winter, but even in summer. Our summers are notoriously unpredictable. I've had thunderstorms, blazing hot, all in the same day. So yeah, it's known as, they call it Britain's most brutal. So yeah, it's a good race.
That's incredible. Good for you for tackling that. Have you done it before?
Yeah, I've done all the race distances now. So I did the winter sprint north just in January, just gone. I came joint first in that with another runner called Damien Hall, who's got quite a good reputation, good background on the ultra running circuit, particularly the longer stuff. I did the full summer version that I'm going back to do this time last year, but I did it a little bit too soon after another big race called Cape Wrath, which was 400 kilometers, but it was a stage race over 8 stages. I did quite well in that. I came second, and then I had to, it was about, I want to say 3 weeks, 4 weeks before the start of the summer spine race, and it was going very well, and it then my body just broke down, so my feet weren't fully recovered and my knees then went. So it was a very agonizing, long, painful journey, I think. And I ended up finishing about 17th from having about a 10-mile lead at one point. So yeah, it was a good experience, actually. Like it you know, when you find out a lot about yourself when you go through the harder, tougher times. And it was nice to see the race from another perspective as well, when you have people passing you and you're joining them, and you know, you share a little bit more time with people along the way then, and you get an appreciation of how long sometimes people can be out there. So I think I was out there for something like 110 hours in that race, and you know, this time I'm aiming for the record, which is sub 70. So we're actually doing a full documentary on it, me and a couple of my sponsors. So it's going to be interesting, document it, talking about that beforehand, then the footage during this year's race, and then seeing how it goes, whether it pans out well, or you know, you just don't know in these races. So yeah, it's me having a shot at redemption, I think, in my own terms.
Right. That's so brave of you to document the process and everything. And I always, when I see documentaries of elite athletes building up to races, I think what pressure that must feel like. And I can't imagine how hard that can be to carry that kind of pressure around all the time. Do you feel like the pressure that you experience is more external, from sponsors, from your fans, or do you think it's more internal, or is it a mix of both?
Definitely internal. I'm my own sort of, I probably put my pressure on myself more than anyone else could. I don't really see, I think I used to see it probably a bit more like pressure to perform, whereas now I don't. I look at it as an opportunity. I see it as exciting. The race doesn't daunt me anymore, because I think I've had probably my worst days possible on that race. So if I can hook it up and have a good day, then it'll be great. But I've always found that documenting the different things. So yeah, it's all good. And I found a lot of people, particularly on social media, will always talk about their successes, but then they put it under the mat, any bad experiences. They don't talk about when things have gone wrong or what's gone wrong and why. You'll just see this perfect picture on social media of the wins, or you know, what went well. And they say, don't they, that social media just shows the picture everyone wants to see. So you will always see people laughing, smiling, you know, things that go well. They don't see the other side of it, and often it's quite fake. So for me, coming into the running, I've had lots of bad days. I've had lots of good days. So, you know, I've been fortunate with a lot of races, but I've had some terrible ones. I've been out to Namibia in the past and I got food poisoning literally the start of a race. I did one stage, tried to do the second stage and collapsed. I've been out with an injury to China and, you know, pulled the plug at sort of just before probably 60 odd miles in. And so, you know, there's been those things that have happened. I've torn a calf on one of the spine race distances before just by falling through the snow into a bit of a creek. And, you know, so those things happen. You can't do anything about them. In ultra running, it's part of the game. You have these, you're going to have these experiences, especially you might get away with it with 50K, even up to 100K, but there's no hiding when you go 100 milers, 200 milers, 300 milers. And you might feel really fit. You might have had the best training block. You know, you can have the best possible build-up, but then it's one wrong step, one pull muscle, and it magnifies it the more the distance goes on and the more you slow down. And if you need to take pain relief, if their pain relief makes you more drowsy, then you need to sleep more. There's so many different aspects to it, isn't there? You just it's inevitable. So you've got to be able to suck it up and take the rough with the smooth, I think.
Definitely. I appreciate your transparency with your experiences and being very blunt that it's not always rosy. So, and I was thinking about what you said about social media and how we oftentimes see people portraying their training is just going great. Everything's wonderful. We always see the high times. But part of me wonders if that's because that's what the athlete prefers to show, or if there's some kind of contractual agreement with sponsors where they don't want you to show injured footage, or, you know, with sponsorships, if you are injured, does that jeopardize your funding, things like that. So I feel like it's multifaceted in terms of, you know, what we see. It's, you know, it's not authentic because obviously they have a contract with, they have to, you know, show this kind of footage, and it's tough. But I do appreciate that you do make an effort to be very authentic. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think it would be disappointing if you're made to feel like that, or that's been dictated to by a sponsor, because personally I wouldn't want to be sponsored by someone that was putting that onto the person to only display that. Because I think, I say, everyday people want to see, you know, they want to know about the athletes, they want to know how they train, they want to know what kit they're wearing, but they want to be a part of the experiences and actually showing them that, you know, they have bad days too. It's part of the course. And I think I'm very lucky with like the brands that I represent. I never have any pressure about what to post or when to post, or, you know, what kit to post or what to write. I you know, and I guess it's probably because I've always come across that way, but I don't think any of the other athletes have any pressure put on them, because it's not your true self. Then I think it comes across as fake. And yeah, I've been asked to promote stuff in the past by different brands and companies, and to be honest, it's really quite an easy decision most of the time, because I have to buy into what I'm using anyway. So if I'm not going to use a product, I'm not going to go and promote a product, because why would I? It's not. If it's nutrition that I like and nutrition that I use, then I will say I'm using this. If someone asks, I will be seen using them on a race, but I don't tend to go, here's this, you know, it's generally quite organic or natural. I'm not there having to push things all the time, because a lot of these companies have seen that I've used products before I was even with them or bought their kit, and so it's been a long-term process. So a lot of my sponsors now I've been with for a number of years or was using their products beforehand. So a lot of people have started using the products and so on, but then they know that that's just me being me. It's not me going, this is the best thing since sliced bread, because all of a sudden I'm using it, and that's that. And I think it's I don't like seeing stuff that's like that. There's too many products and things that don't actually work out there as well at the moment, that aren't scientifically backed, or I think it's dangerous now with the ads that are out there. I'm seeing a lot with supplements at the moment, like multivitamins and testosterone stuff, and it's they're all saying that they can do this, they can do that, and then they're putting competitors' brands there and saying, oh, this product's better because of this and this, but it's just paid ads. It's not genuine research. And I think that's a danger with the ads that maybe Facebook and Instagram put up. I don't think there's a proper regulation to it. So people can basically post a lot of things that aren't necessarily true, and if they give it a bit of hype and marketing, then people buy into it, don't they? Because they start seeing it everywhere, and you search more, and then you get more things popping up. And
Right.
I think there's been different times, hasn't there? There's been ketones that have, I think there's a few brands of ketones I've come across, and then you start seeing it, and then you just can't get away from it because you see them all over the place. And it's the same now with testosterone stuff. It might be because I'm in my 40s now that I'm seeing all this raise your testosterone and stuff like that. And it's it is just frightening how you can fall into the trap with social media, and how it targets people, specific age demographic, and the sport you're doing, and you see all these things. And there's probably not a great deal of regulation. It's just someone paying for ads, and if you've got plenty of money to invest in ads, you can get a good return, and then you're above maybe some good brands that are scientifically backed, that are doing all the right things. But it's the way of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think about, for me personally, promoting myself as a coach, I don't have a whole lot of spend to put behind ads, but I believe in my product, and it's kind of like other people who perhaps they don't have certifications, they don't have an education in general, for endurance specific type training. If they have the money, then their ads are going to go above people who are more qualified. And I guess it's not, I know for people who are looking to have a coach, you definitely need to do your research. Do you find that for your coaching business in general, for your athletes, have you had to do a whole lot of marketing? Obviously, you're your best marketing tool, right? You've had success. You're out in the trenches doing the actual racing. So, I feel like you probably have gotten your clients very organically, and you haven't had to do a whole lot of marketing to promote your coaching business.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the points that I do like to race and be visible, is because that is my best advert. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a great coach, but and this is the problem, isn't it? It's like influencers out there that have a good social media following. They all of a sudden do like a coaching qualification that they can do online. They've got no prior experience, and they've probably not done a lot of races or done things that then people are coming to them to coach about. And it's because of people following them, and they put stuff out there which might or might not be correct, different things, but people go to them. And like you say, other people that have very good sound knowledge but aren't necessarily the best at social media or actively posting. And I really struggle because I post, but usually it's posting about races. I'm not there uploading stuff all the time because I'm just not that way inclined. If I go out for a training run, I'm not really bothered so much about getting a drone up and
I know.
photographing it, all that side of things. I just like to go out and run and train when I get a minute. I don't want to be stopping and doing all these things. And there's, there is some great people out there on YouTube and stuff, and a couple of Americans that I've followed in the past, and I've really enjoyed their videos over the years. But the amount of time and effort that it takes to do that as well, it's more about being a producer, a content producer, rather than being a coach and stuff. But yeah, for me, I've not had to market because I've been out there doing it, and obviously I can do something right myself to do well in these different races all over. And I'm self-coached, so I haven't gone anywhere. But it's not the fact that I don't like the idea of a coach. It's the fact that my life is so hectic, and trying to stick to a plan just wouldn't work for me. So I'd be a coaching nightmare. So I wouldn't put that on to anyone else. But yeah, I can appreciate that there's a lot of good coaches out there that probably don't have the clients they should because of, I say, the way things are set up now and so on. And I think good coaches and people like ourselves having a conversation realize that that's the case. And say, there's a lot of coaches out there. How many coaches are good coaches? There's, I'm going to say probably less than half that are probably a good standard coach with decent background that have done perhaps some endurance sports, not necessarily all these fancy different races, but have that good solid foundation where they can appreciate it themselves. They can then apply knowledge to someone's training programs, to their goals, and so on. And yeah, it's very difficult for people looking for a coach to find the right coach, I think, because people are very good at selling themselves, even if they're not a great coach, great background with it. And I mean, I find this now because my headwear brand Pain Cave, I've been trying to get that off the ground for a long time, and so it's investment in product and trying to market it, but I don't have the marketing budget. And it's a minefield because I search marketing, and then all of a sudden I've got all these Instagram ads about marketing coming up. And then I had someone trying to nearly £10,000 off me the other week for a simple, I'm thinking maybe a few £100 max. And so I haven't done it. I haven't gone through with anything at the moment. I'm just holding back, and I'm growing the website myself, writing blogs, typing in stuff to make sure it is organically growing and hits stuff on the website and then on Google, but it takes about 6 months to start taking effect. But I'm trying to grow it in the correct way that then when I do go and start paying for some marketing or clicks, as they say, then it will help. But yeah, it's difficult. It's very difficult.
It sounds like you're going about it the right way, and I admire your desire to continue to race and put yourself out there. And it's almost like you do have a bit of a pressure to get more coaching clients. You have to continue racing because you're your best marketing tool. And I'll be very honest, I haven't raced in a long time because I've just been, I've had injury, I've had some burnout, and it's kind of felt like imposter syndrome when I, try to coach athletes. But I raced collegiately for 4.5 years, and I raced post collegiately as well. And I look at my training logs. I don't necessarily count mileage generally, but I'm out there doing 100+ mile weeks because I love running and I love educating other people and learning about it. And I do want to start racing, but it's almost like this kind of fear because now there are all these eyes on my back to see how I'm going to do. But kudos to you for continuing to put yourself out there, be vulnerable, and just even when you have a bad day to gut out these really tough races. And from what you said, I think your headwear brand will definitely take off organically because if you're wearing it you're out there doing these races, then people are going to see that and they're going to be like, Pain Cave, that's cool. And, you know, Jon Shield is cool. I want to be like him. So I think it's all going to work in your favor, you know, and I feel like there's more longevity in that kind of organic marketing that you're doing, just being out there, than all this like SEO stuff online and trying to be ahead of the game with AI and everything else. And, you know, it's becoming increasingly difficult to just be heard in this space, right? So
you need an IT degree now, don't you? You need marketing, you need a computer degree. And it's like now I'm getting someone to help because I've got 2 websites, the coaching one, which is on Squarespace. And then the guy who does my other website, my headwear one, said, oh yeah, WordPress is the best thing to be on for the platform. So he set it up like that. But when I try and alter that, if it's anything beyond something quite simple, it's a nightmare. Whereas Squarespace I can use without a problem, but it's very time consuming when you try and learn stuff, or you're trying to do things like the SEO stuff, and you're just like, wow, there's so many different things now to distract you, instead of coaching or just focusing on reading up a little bit more about coaching and, you know, the latest principles and things like that, which if I had the time, I would love to be doing more of that. But I don't have more time. So often, like my coaching now, I'm applying it more to people, what I've done previously that's worked for myself. Yeah, I know underpinning sides of things, but everyone's different at the end of the day. So you can't coach everyone the way I am. And I've seen that with a lot of people, is they coach people the way that they've coached themselves or been coached, instead of actually, this person's this age, they're male, this person's female, and they're this age. And you've got to take into a whole host of different things, which is not a one size fits all thing. And I think in the US, you mentioned you've got a strong collegiate background. There's not really that in the UK. There's not really that kind of setup which you have in the US, which is amazing. All the track stuff, and it does go on here, but it's just not pushed the same way. And I sort of hated running early on. I've only fallen into running really over the last 7 years, but I was a personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach, but I played things like rugby, soccer, all that type of thing when I was younger, and did a sports science degree, then did a postgrad in strength and conditioning, then got sort of a little bit disillusioned, wanted to go and scratch the itch to go into the military and the infantry. The elite fighting force was the parachute regiment, so I wanted to go and experience that before I got too old. And then, yeah, bad parachute jump, landed badly, got medically discharged and retrained then as a medic. So I've always had that interest in the human body and how it works, how to apply it. But I myself now I would love more time to just sit and look at the latest training, you know, and just embed myself more in it. But you actually just have to concentrate on so much nowadays that's not about the job, and more about how you promote yourself and how you sell yourself. And then they say, if you want to race, you've got to put the training in around that. And, you know, 100-mile weeks, obviously some people can get away with it, other people can't. Some people are built that can withstand that. Other people need less miles, more gym, or other people require more vert, depending on what your race is, or flatter stuff. And then your mileage can be completely different, can't it? I mean, at the moment I'm spending often, just because I kept racing and just didn't let myself recover. So I've been on the Stairmaster a lot, sort of most days doing probably anything between an hour and a half on the Stairmaster, sometimes with ankle weights, sometimes with a, you know, weighted vest occasionally, and then getting on the bike for a second session as well, just to keep that fitness, doing a lot of gym work as well on top of that, a lot of weights, but very little running at the moment. And for me, you know, I've probably run less over this last sort of few months, apart from my last race was 2 months ago now in Costa Rica. And And since then, I've not really done much. And before that, a month earlier was when I did the spine. So yeah, now it's just that I've tried a couple of long runs, had some good things, but then just got a niggle again. So it's kind of reset and going back to just some training where I can train without it being negative. So I still feel fit. It's just not running specific fitness at the moment.
I mean, I have not done 100-mile weeks consistently. I've probably stacked maybe a month and some weeks before, you know, with that kind of volume, because I was in an injury cycle over the winter. Here it's really tough. And if you want to train, if you want to run, you're most likely going to be on a treadmill. And treadmill for me, while it's a great tool, it's almost like if I'm on it too often, I'm going to get injured. And it's really hard for me to build fitness on a treadmill. But I know what it's like to do 1.5-hour sessions on an elliptical and then, you know, eating something, maybe grabbing a quick nap, and then being on the bike for another 1.5 hours, having 3 hours of cross training, because trying to have equivalencies to the running effort is so hard because it's not the same and you have to do more. But yeah, I understand that struggle, and the cross training it's intense. And you know, that's the thing. You wear so many hats, literally, because you're headwear brand. Bad joke, anyway. But you're trying to be a coach. You're not trying. You're succeeding. You are being an athlete yourself. You're trying to market your product with your headwear brand, and you're trying to educate yourself. And it's just at the end of the day, it's so time consuming. But you know, how do you feel that you've just been able to stay consistent with so much going on?
I think it's just the desire. You know, I'm seeing, like, I don't have what I would say is the longest time left in my career at a competitive level. So, you know, all being well, no injuries, and so is ultra running. You can obviously be competitive a lot later in your career, especially as you sort of lengthen out the distance. But I mean, the guy who's just come third at Marathon des Sables, but even the two guys who finished ahead of him, the Moriarty brothers, they're not young now. And is it Ludwig Pomfret who came third? He's 50. He's won Hard Rock twice and got the record for Hard Rock, and he's just come third there, and he nearly got second off the two brothers who always win or always first and second. So, you know, he's a great example of someone that's now 50, that's right at the sharp end, winning Hard Rock, which is obviously a massive race, twice back to back, and then doing that there at MDS. And Damien Hall, who I finished alongside, again, he's 50, and over the long stuff, again, he's a phenomenal athlete. And I think there's quite a few now that are out there doing that. So it's really positive in that point of view, that, you know, I've still got plenty of time when I look at those guys. So that gives me inspiration off those guys, and that dedication to actually go, well, you know what, I'm quite young in this sport. I've still got a relatively young training age because I haven't run throughout my life. I've always been sporty, but I've been ultra running now for 7 years, learning since the last 7 years. So I feel like my performances can still improve. So I want to extract that. So that gives me that motivation. And there's more races out there. I want to come to the States. I want to race there. I want to see how well I can do. And, you know, I was following the Arizona Monster 300 the other day, because as well as having a client there, one of my friends was racing, and he's a very good runner, but he DNF'd quite early on because of the heat. And usually he's so well prepared, and, you know, he's had great race results all over the world. And so that was a shame. But again, that's just an example, isn't it? That, you know, these things can go wrong. Even if you're one of the best prepared, dedicated athletes, sometimes it's just not your day. But yeah, it's motivating when I see other people doing well as well, and it inspires me. So yeah, I think it's always a balance, and maybe I couldn't, like, I've got dogs and stuff, so I can't always leave things and go out and have a big day in the mountains like I'd want. So I have to make the most of it, or when I can, I'll train like a monster, and then when I have to dial it back, I'll be in the gym and, you know, going for shorter runs or whatever, just keeping ticking over. And I think being consistent is what I tell all my clients, is that consistency is key. You're not going to drop fitness if you're always training in some way, shape or form. If you're getting your cardio in, you're working your different energy systems, you don't always have to be out doing 8-hour long runs or whatever, 6 hours in the mountains. You don't need to be doing that. You can maintain off a short long run. You know, you can be, you know, a 2-hour long run on a weekend, and if it's not in the mountains, yeah, it's not going to be as specific. But if you're doing some Stairmaster or an incline ascent mill or something like that, your fitness isn't going to drop away completely. Yeah, it won't be specific to maybe a race you're wanting to do, so you might lose a bit of specificity, but on the other hand, it's not that hard to get it back. Then, you know, you can get it back relatively easily if you're consistent with your training, your strength training and that side of things. You know, you can do your plyometrics and bits and bobs like that with, you know, trying to avoid injury when you're doing them. As long as you're balancing it, then you can sort of you know, offset the lack of running down mountains, loading your quads and getting them beat up in that way. You know, you kind of making sure that when you go back to the mountains and do the steep climbs and then the steep descents, that you're still in shape to tolerate them because of the strength work that you're doing, because of the stairs and the climbing and incline treadmill or whatever that you're doing. You're still giving yourself the basics tools that you need to then go and bring back that fitness from being out there, that, you know, it's specific. You can't be completely fit without training specifically to things, can you? So, you know, if you're not at altitude, then yeah, you can get in a tent, you can get a mask on and artificially train for altitude, but it's not the same as living at altitude, is it? Because it's only a relative amount of time compared to when you're 24 hours a day at altitude. It hits differently.
For sure. Yeah, I think about athletes who maybe they can't run as much and they have to do more cross training, and perhaps they're dealing with some kind of injury and they're not doing much outdoor running. Or like for me, wintertime on the treadmill a lot. And I will say that going back to outdoor running after being on a treadmill for months on end it was tough, especially because I jumped right in the deep end. You know, I live on a mountain and there are lots of gravel roads, and I've always opted to run on dirt and gravel instead of asphalt when possible, just because I've had stress fractures before and I just enjoy it more. But one key thing for like athletes who perhaps can't run on specific surface to whatever race they have coming up is ankle stability and foot strength. And, you know, I would say if you're on uneven terrain, you've got to look after your feet and you've got to make sure your ankles are as strong as possible, with balance, with, you know, just proprioception, everything. You mentioned a recent injury, just a race that you did, your knees and your feet were pretty beat up. In what way were they beat up?
Just blisters. I'd struggled with blisters for so long. So the knees were a problem because of the feet and the blisters. And what it was is I'd always struggled with blisters from starting out running. And I found it very difficult to get shoes that suited me. And I ended up with a brand, a sponsor, and it took me a while to realize that those shoes just didn't work for me. I tried different shoes, different things, but I'd had a few DNFs in races, or it ruined races. So it's really frustrating because I was trying different socks, I was taping feet, I was doing all sorts. And you know, obviously you get a sponsor, a footwear sponsor. It's a big thing. It's, you know, a good, you know, it saves you spending money on shoes, doesn't it? So from that point of view, it was great because they were a good, reputable brand. They were very good with me, but they just didn't suit or work for my feet. So I left the brand of my own accord because I actually realized that and just it wasn't necessarily my feet. And don't get me wrong, I think initially your feet have to toughen up to doing the distances. So it definitely wasn't all the shoes. And I think it was just my feet did not suit the shoes, the brand, as well as them needing to toughen up over time. I literally tried all sorts of different things, from using you know, like lubricants, different lubricants on the feet, taping the feet, different socks, toe socks, all sorts of different, you know, materials, and sizing up, sizing down, everything. And what I found is I actually worked my feet more, my muscles in my feet more, stretched out the fascia a bit more, strengthened them. Ankles had always been good because since the injury, I've broken my left ankle leg 3 times, and rugby twice, and then one was a double leg break and an ankle dislocation in one go, then a separate ankle break, and then a separate one on the parachute jump. So 3, technically 4 release. But my ankles, I've never rolled my ankle, never had a sprained ankle, and so I do a lot on them. But what I had neglected was my feet. My feet weren't great. I think because I'm naturally quite flat-footed, and what I was finding is I'd get Achilles niggles, I'd get a bit of like plantar fasciitis. Nothing that ever stopped me. It was always blisters. But what I worked out was that was causing the blisters, really. And I think I tried softening my feet up like books had recommended. That did not work. So, you know, some quite reputable books that were on about keeping your feet supple and soft to the skin did that, and it made them worse. So actually, I don't do anything with my feet now. I don't lubricate them. All I do with my feet now is I wear a certain sock, and I found some trainers that I like, a brand that I like that works, and I don't tape them. I don't do anything. I've just done the muscles, do the work on the feet, make sure they're flexible as well. And then I wear a certain sock and I wear a certain shoe brand, and that seems to like keep all the blisters away. I haven't really had any major blisters in a long time now. And if I did get anything, I'd probably just tape it slightly or use a little bit of lubricant. But with the certain socks that I use, you're not supposed to use any like lubricant because it actually stops the sock doing their job, which a lot of people don't realize is that these sock materials, and some of them and the way they work, is that it actually is going to stop them doing their job. If you cake yourself with a load of foot stuff, whatever people use, whether it's Vaseline, whether they use, I don't know, all the different brands that are out there now. And obviously, I mean, anti-chafing stuff's great because I'll use that sort of between my legs or whatever for races and stuff, but I don't use them on my feet because I've just found that actually my feet need to breathe. So if I clog it with a load of stuff, yeah, it lubricates them, but actually over a long period of time, they, you know, become sweatier, they're just moist, that they soften up too much, and then they start to macerate. And so yeah, but I think everyone's different. Footwear, foot care and everything, because everyone's feet's so different, it's not a one size fits all thing, is it? So what I do for myself might not work for someone else. Someone else swears by taping, someone else swears by lubricating their feet, someone else swears by, you know, one shoe, someone else swears by another shoe, and or a sock. So yeah, it's really sort of personal.
For sure. you know, I've had blisters before and they are so hard. Once you start to get them, it's
Yeah.
so hard to kind of break the blister cycle. And it's not an injury that you would immediately think, oh, this is race ending, this is going to stop my training. But no, if your feet are in bad shape, like that will stop you dead in your tracks. And I think it's really interesting how you mentioned in trying to figure out cause of the blisters and make them go away that you worked on foot strength. And I'm trying to think perhaps maybe if your feet weren't intrinsically strong, maybe they were kind of rigid, I guess, in your shoe, and that was kind of causing excessive rubbing. But the fact that strengthening your feet actually helped prevent future blisters, that's a really interesting theory that I hadn't even considered. But you know, with ultra distance running, definitely looking after your feet is key. And I can definitely see how, you know, your approach to trying so many different things. And you know, yeah, it's a lot to deal with. And I'm glad that you found something that worked for you.
Insoles, everything. It was always the balls for my feet as well that would get the blisters. So you can try everything. It's a process of elimination, what it is. And I think now I do a lot where when you sit on your back on your knees, my quads are quite tight anyway. So you get a good stretch by sitting back on your knees, don't you? Your quads get a good stretch. But then I sort of sit on my feet as well in that way. So you're it's kind of like excessive plantar flexion, isn't it? Where you're sat on them and this is my foot, so it's going under like that and stretching out the top of your foot basically. And I found that massively helps. But then also when you sort of sit and put your toes up like that you're stretching the other way as well, that mobility, as well as doing your big toe stuff, making sure that your big toes pushing off correctly as it should do. You're not rolling your feet, and really trying to concentrate on my positioning of the feet and how I'm planting. But also, again, that's where the shoe comes in. If you've got something that is quite highly stacked, that doesn't suit me. I like to feel the ground, as opposed to these plush kind of typical ultra shoes, I guess, where you don't have as much feel. I tend to like a shoe that's more connected with the ground. I just feel more stable. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. And just it's what you've got to do, isn't it? You've got to problem solve in races, and you know these races are so long that you've got time to solve it. But if you don't solve it, you're going to have a long time being miserable as well. And from experience, having a long time being miserable, I prefer to have a long time not being miserable instead.
For sure. You know, I'm thinking about, you mentioned the knees starting to bother you. Was that secondary to the feet? I'm thinking in my mind, if you tend to get blisters on the ball of your foot, then I would myself, to try and alleviate that, probably start to heel strike a little bit more, which would then go up the kinetic chain and start to damage your knees more. I'm wondering if that's why that happened for you, perhaps.
So it happened. So my feet started to be a problem on day 2 of Cape Wrath in Scotland, which was like the 400k 8-stage race. So it was fast racing, like every day. It was really fast, really hard. So I had to really battle, and to keep hold of second place, it was a shame because I felt like I could have competed for the win. And we did sort of battle on a couple of days where I would beat the guy who won. But from day 2, we were running together, and I had to stop to try and sort the blisters because I could feel them coming on. But the problem was I had a shoe that was a road to trail shoe, and it's really technical terrain there. The brand I was with didn't have their ultra shoe in my size. They hadn't had it all season. So that was a massive contributing factor, that a road to trail shoe, as much as I loved that road to trail shoe, it just couldn't cope with the demands of that race. But chuffed with the outcome, the finish of that, I was like made up because I was in agony. It was worse though, taking my shoes off at the end of each day and then being in camp with no shoes on. It was excruciating. I was in so much pain then. It was actually better when you squished your feet back in the shoe and just did them really tight. But then I had no knee problems during that race. I didn't feel my knees at all. The first time I got some awareness that my knees were not quite right, and they weren't injured. I just noticed it squatting, that there was a bit of like a tightness in the knees. But again, I didn't notice it when I was running after that, although I wasn't doing too much running before then going on to the summer spine race. I think there was about 4 weeks between them. So I probably had a week or two off, and probably just cross-trained for a week, and then probably did a week of running, and then went back into this race, which again was the 268 miler. And I think I was trying to remember where I first got the hint of the knee pain, but I know, I don't know what mile it was, but I remember my feet weren't fully healed because the whole bottom of my feet had come off basically. So it was all soft still. So they hadn't toughened up again. So I knew they'd be a problem going into that race. But they were okay. They were holding up for a good period of time until I went over one of the big mountains, which is notoriously awkward. And there's lots of really awkward, like grassy, lumpy stuff where you can't get a proper foot down, and it was hammering it down, going over that. And then, so they shredded up then, but I started to feel my knees before that. And I just remember this shooting pain in my left knee to start with. I was like, whoa, what the hell's that? And then it would completely go. But then like another minute later, bang, another sharp pain. So you couldn't try and second guess when it was coming, but it was bloody painful. So it was really awkward. So then I stopped at like one of these makeshift checkpoints they had for half an hour and grabbed a coffee, and was just sort of icing on the knee and just giving it a rest. Took some ibuprofen. Naughty me for taking ibuprofen because you're not supposed to, but if you're well hydrated, it's okay. So I was doing that, and some paracetamol and stuff just to try and take it off. And then it seemed to be okay for a little while, and I kept moving. But then I started to notice some swelling, and then the other knee. And yeah, it just became a real problem. And it was tendonitis, basically, patella tendonitis, which, you know, I've still to this day noticed it. I mean, it has improved drastically. I mean, I went to Gobi to do Ultra Gobi, and I got, I think, about 12 hours in, and then there was a sharp descent, and I just knew straight away I couldn't continue because I was going to damage myself for even longer. So I called it a day out there. But I'd been seeing the physios before that, and I said, I'm worried that I'm going to get sort of 10, 12 hours in, hit a descent, and it'll be game over. And they were like, no, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. You'll be fine. And I was doing my exercise. So, and then it just happened, and it happened exactly as I thought it would. But I didn't suffer on in that race. I literally stopped it straight away to avoid making it any worse. And actually, once I stopped, and I had some physio out there as well, some massage while I was out there, while the race was still going on, because I was stuck around camp for a good few days after that. And when I came back, actually, it was better than it was before I went. So it improved by making a good decision there. And then, but since then, I raced. I'd done a multi-day in Kenya, and it was okay because the longest stage was about 6 hours. So that was okay. It doesn't go beyond 10 hours. It's fine. And then again, January, I've done the spine sprint. That was 8 hours. Fine. No dramas at all there. And then Costa Rica again was fine. No issues with regards to the knees. But I think I've got some compensatory stuff because of it as well. Like an IT band setting off, and just being generally out of kilter from doing that. So that's what I've been addressing now. Although they feel better, they still feel sometimes a little bit strange, and that's all I can put it at. Not pain, but strange. So I'm still doing my exercises, and I've got some good structured physio coming up in the build up to doing this 268 miles again, just to make sure that it's fully resolved and have some like like laser therapy on it or shockwave therapy, whatever they decide, by making sure I'm going about it in the right way, just to make sure that it's still improving, and it has been massively improved. But that's probably the lingering doubt I have in my mind with regards to a race of that magnitude now, is that will those things come back again, or will they be okay now? Because I wasn't aware of that before I started that race, whereas I've been aware of them since. And although I've raced and had some good results, I've not done 268 miles since. So it's that kind of guessing game. But keep doing the rehab, keep doing the strength work, and probably not running now is benefiting me as well. So yeah, hopefully, but we'll soon see.
Yeah. I hate that for you, and especially if your IT band starts to flare up in response to that, that's really hard to resolve too. And
yeah,
besides physio, are you doing any specific type like strength work to try and get the knees better?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of Spanish squats. Really like them. Been doing a lot of band work as well. So, I mean, I'd always done the crab walks anyway. The IT bands flared up. Basically, I went running with a client in Morocco straight after I'd done the spine sprint. And the spine sprint, there was a lot of downhills in a lot of icy, snowy conditions. And the pace was quite hot when we were doing these descents. So there was a lot of loading. And then after that, I went to Morocco with my client, and that was all on road. They were doing a challenge to sort of retrace his parents' route when they migrated from Tangier to Casablanca. So it was all road though. So I was running with him, and I noticed it flare up then. So I cut my running down then before going to Costa Rica, which was the following week. And then I was aware of it very early on in Costa Rica, and the jungle there, it's massive, steep climbs, but then very, very sharp descents. So it flared it up while I was out there. So I've been managing that since, and I've been doing crab walks, been doing sort of some medial band work as well, pulling against the knee, keeping sort of it in there, a lot of single leg stuff, the Spanish squats. So stretching it. I feel like I don't do much foam rolling, but I do feel like it works. Although when people say it doesn't work, you shouldn't do it. I still kind of like it, and I like trigger pointing sort of my glutes as well, stretching the glutes out. And the IT band stretch, again, I have to really be extreme with that to get some sort of feel on that. So I do a bit of everything, but it's a difficult one. And I think that just came from being a bit out of kilter, and just the sheer sort of amount of racing that was in close proximity, that, you know, you take your opportunities. When a race comes, you get invited to go to it. It's like, it's hard to say no. And it turned out they were two really strong results for me. So going from where on the tops it was about -11 in the winter spine, to then going to Costa Rica where it was mid-30s and 100% humidity within a very short period of time, that was tough. So to podium, coming third in Costa Rica after sort of a joint win in the spine was good. So yeah, it just made me reset though from then, just to try and make sure I was good for this summer now. So I've cut all the races out this year apart from what I've already done, just to make sure this one race is the key focus, just to give myself the time to try and fix myself properly and do the things that necessarily you might neglect a bit before. So doing mainly the rehab stuff or prehab stuff to deal with that added distance. Like, my fitness isn't going to be an issue for that. For these longer races, it's not your top end fitness that matters, is it? It's being resilient. It's having the good strength and conditioning, that resilience, it's getting your nutrition right. It's power hiking, is, you know, all those sort of things. If you can get that stuff right and have a good consistent run, keep moving, spend less time in checkpoints, then that's more important than having a high end VO2 max. Yeah, you get some efficiency maybe with running faster and so on, but you're also more injury prone as well. So it's better to go in fresh and slightly undercooked as opposed to going in overcooked and with injuries. So hopefully learning lessons.
I think that you'll be good to go. You're a diligent person, and I think with 8 weeks until your race, you're doing all the right things. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, for me personally, if I have an injury, it's like I need to sleep. That's the key thing for me. And I know you're very, very busy, and sleep probably is sometimes pushed to the back burner, but that is such a key time for when healing happens. So hopefully that's your weakness.
Yeah, I've been getting better amounts of sleep, really tried to focus on that, and I feel better for it as well, to be fair. Because all things like your hormones, like if I don't get as much sleep, I eat more late at night, I get the cravings, and then less sleep, I'm more tired, I'm less productive, I store body fat more, so around my stomach. I can tell. And obviously it's because your hormones are out of sync. You're not getting the required recovery. So yeah, it's something I've really worked on, just trying to get a little bit more in, and definitely better. I could still do some more, especially when your training volume goes up. But, you know, there's always going to be something, isn't there, that's got to give. And I think the sleep is certainly one of them, or the necessary getting the long days that you'd like out on the mountains all the time. But that's life. You've got to have that bit of balance.
For sure. I wish you all the luck in the world for that upcoming race and for all the races on your calendar. I hope the injury is no more and you are 100%. And yeah, for people who are interested in looking at the documentary, learning more about Pain Cave, your headwear gear, where can they find out more about that?
Yeah, I mean, the documentary, we're going to start filming that over the next couple of weeks, building up to the race. But if you, follow me on Instagram, Jon Shield runs ultras, paincaveheadwear.com for the headwear. But yeah, usually if you follow me on there, usually I'll try and update. I'm not that bad at social media that I don't update things on there. So yeah, people can follow me there. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time today. And yeah, we'll have to have you back on after your race and see how everything went.
No, that'd be great. I'm going to come over and race over in the States anyway, so I might make you do a race as well.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any in your scope that you're looking at the races over here?
I'd love to do Moab 240 or Tahoe 200, the Arizona Monster 300. There's quite a few out there, but yeah, I'm open to suggestions as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And yeah, we'll have to have you back on.
That'd be great. Thanks so much.